Hello, my derpy little friends, and it has been a while since we were treated to some original storytelling with some high quality animation. But thankfully, we have collectively, as a species, become obsessed with K-pop Demon Hunters. But as I don't trust myself sculpting humans yet, let's make Derpy the tiger, his quirky little companion Sussie the Magpie, and to add a little bit of flair, we'll be making a resin portal to the underworld. Now, this being my first resin pour, stay tuned to witness mediocrity at its finest.
That doesn't make sense.
Now, in order to accurately establish the proportions of Derpy's face, I'll trace his face onto a sheet of sketch paper and ball up some tinfoil, which I'll wrap in an initial layer of clay. Then with a scalpel, I'll cut out the eyes and the mouth shapes. After quickly delineating what looks like a peachy butt, I'll drape the template over the head, within which I can score in the eyes and the mouth outlines. I can then scrape, cut, chop, and poke in the various face openings whilst my mind wanders in rumination about why all the fictional cats in cartoons are smiling. Scar, Shere Khan, Puss in Boots, King John, James Corden.
Why did you say that name?
After some quick scalpel work, I'll round out the eyes with a ball stylus, and happy with the set out, I'll fill in that face bum and begin to build up the depth of the head. I'll start with the lower lip, and then I'll spin Derpy with a natural cinematic flair, deserving of his station. Then we can quickly build up the muzzle, followed by the eyebrows, and finally we can bulk up that 5 head. Starting with a stiff silicone shaper and swiftly followed by Old Faithful stylus, I will blend in the clay to the main head body, and he's gone from looking like Zippy to the Grinch. But something I've learned in the few months that I've been sculpting is that it usually looks okay in the end. Usually. I'll add his cute little button nose, followed by some very oversized eyes by way of a cabochon. And for those not down with the kids, a cabochon is a glass bead that is domed on one side and flat on the other. And they are perfect for making eyes, as the glass will not melt in the oven, and as demonstrated above, you paint the back of the bead so there's no chance of the paint scratching off. And if you want to learn how to spell cabochon, you'll have to Google it like the rest of us, with absolutely every variation of the spelling of the word until you get it right. But in the end, we are left with some very cool yet very creepy eyes. I allow these ample time to dry before inserting them into the eye sockets, and then I can smooth out the mouth before adding in the alar folds to the nose. I'll quickly remake the eyes, as I realized upon looking at my reference images that one of the things that makes Derpy so incredibly derpy is that his eyes point slightly outward in a derpy way. Have I said derpy enough? Derpy, 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 derpy. Derpy. From here, we can next add the second to last of his predatory features in the way of ears, and once blended into the face, we can finally see that face really taking shape. Next up are the final predatory features, which are of course the pre-baked teeth. We start with 2 very impractical canines, followed by a speed run of the remaining dentures. I'll tidy up the upper lip and then mount Derpy to a cork sanding block. We can then make a skeletal neck for Derpy by means of 2 wires in the cork block. And that's how you make a Derpy Pez dispenser. Thanks for watching. And welcome back, where it is currently fur o'clock, and these are my current favorite fur making tools. The way I think about fur is the more prominent the area is to be featured, then the finer the tool that I use. And by this logic, I start around the nose and the mouth with a small timber dowel, maybe 3 mm in diameter, and then I move on to something with a bit more girth.
Girth? Girth? We're not going to talk about girth.
With the dowels having done the hard work, I'll use a variety of metal tools to add more interesting details, and a quick rub down with some alcohol, and we can put Derpy's head aside and move on to our lovable sidekick, Sussie the Magpie. Hey! Sussie starts as a little ball of foil mounted on a wire. The legs are made up of my finest jewelry wire, which I've double helixed in my drill, as seen in pretty much all my other videos, so if you're new here, go watch any one of them. or all of them. I'll finger on some bacon bond to allow the clay to stick to the foil.
Watch me. I'll do the fingering.
In this instance, I'll be using white souffle for Sussie. And once the body is sufficiently bulked up, I'll make the tail separately on a little cheesecake tray and send off to the oven before lobotomizing Derpy for some footholds. A quick dry fit of Sussie into Derpy's head and onto the next step. And for said step, I'll use my oversized sausage fingers to attempt, with all the delicacy of a blunt axe, to shape a head and beak before inserting the now baked tail feathers into the cloaca region. Happy with the shape now, I'll divot in some eye sockets and use my homemade pokey wiry doodad to add itty bitty feathers. A little trick I saw on Instagram for the eyes was to drip some UV resin onto an old curry box lid and cure them with my UV light that I found in a hotel room for some reason. And this leaves me with some pretty nice little domed resin eyes. And a big thanks to Odd Little Workshops for that tip. I'll then go ahead and mount all the eyes face down on some painter's tape, paint them all yellow, realize I forgot the pupils, remove the paint with some alcohol and start again. And I think these are, well, just swell. And from here we can make Sussie's gat. Now I know what you're thinking. Did he say gat instead of hat? Yes I did, faceless viewer, because a gat it is. This hat is a gat and the gat be a hat. Don't say you don't learn anything on this channel. Before I get back to Derpy, I'm going to paint this monochromatic pestilence of the sky. Does everyone remember the Magpie song, or is that like an Irish thing? You know the one? 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told, 8 for a wish, 9 for a kiss, 10 for the bird that you must not miss. Anybody? Anybody know any more? Is there an 11? Let me know in the comments. And let me know if you involuntarily sang along to that. I remember good times with that song. Memories of me and my favorite potato just counting magpies from our stone cottage that stood alone on the highest crest of the greenest field, with naught but the sheep to keep us company. And if that's what you think of Ireland, and after bulking the body somewhat, I can make a couple of financially questionable sausages for arms. And with the tiger sausages firmly positioned, I'll add deep ravines of primal chest hair using naught but a mirror for reference. I think this is my third furry sculpt in a row, so I might just have to make a robot of some description next, or some form of fleshy, scaly creature. Let me know what you think below. Spam the comments with robots or scales and we'll see who triumphs. There's also a secret third option that might tickle your fancy.
It's a fierce dinosaur now! Roar!
But with that, the fur is complete, and I'll melt down the back of the neck joint and make it seamless with some alcohol, and then it is off to the oven for the last time. In order to prime our tiger, we simply leave a bottle of your preferred sentient acrylic nearby for a short amount of time, and once dry we can reveal the eye of the tiger. Do you get it? Do you get it? Now I spent a lot more time than I care to admit trying to get this blue correct. Sadly, the right shade of blue was beyond my skill, or my stick-to-itiveness. I'll let you be the judge. So this base blue falls firmly in the category of it'll do. And once the base layer was down and either dry or drying, I used my wet palette to thin out the same blue for the lighter areas on the chest and around the mouth, ears, eyes, and the forehead stripes. I can go ahead and add the head stripes, of which there are definitely 2, not 3, don't check that, and a series of random dots on the forehead. And assuming that Derpy is a male tiger, which I do, I will fanfiction myself into believing that before K-pop, Derpy was a misunderstood emo cub listening to My Chemical Romance in his bedroom while ignoring his mother and refusing to eat dinner at a regular time. How else do you explain the guy liner and the black lipstick? You can't, so why bother trying? After a very light, near inconsequential dry brush, I have a very rich magenta purple by Vallejo called Warlord Purple. Not again, Warlord Purple, which I'll use in gradual layers to build up the mouthful region aggressively because white teeth be damned. Less aggressively and bordering on delicately, I'll paint the nose a lighter shade and adding a white edge highlight. And if there are any speech and language therapists out there, please let me know why I can't say the word warlord properly without a significant amount of thought. As you can see, I've added these stripes to the back now, and our little kitty is looking pretty good now, and we can add the spots to the chest that tigers are 100% known for, above any other predatory cat.
This is an outrage. Shenanigans of the highest order. Shenanigans.
Yeesh, I think someone's a little salty. Finishing up the paint job, for now. I'll add a couple of stripes to either arm, and with a dead white I can tidy up the overpaint on the teeth. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. Fun with resin. And just before we get there, do like and subscribe to see more of whatever this is. Only 15% of you lot tuning in every couple of weeks are subscribed, but keep coming back for more, and it really does help push the videos to a broader audience, which gets my seal of approval.
I approve!
I'm using a 2-part clear epoxy resin that was surprisingly cheap. About 11 freedom dollars to my US friends for 200 mils. I don't know what that is in ounces, you're gonna have to look it up because, I don't know, liquids just shouldn't be in ounces. Now I figure to save me making a mold for a portal, I can simply sacrifice this measuring tub to the sculpting gods and hack it to bits later. I add 100 mils of the resin and 100 mils of the hardener and a couple of drops of this watercolor ink. I'll stir this all together with my trusty stir stick and leave it aside for 32 hours. And for the next segment, we're doing it live.
We'll do it live!
Okay, so we are gonna go through this one together. Never actually taken apart a resin pour before, so yeah, let's get stuck in. Hello. I thought this would peel off a little easier, to be honest. Oh yeah. Oh, see, that didn't dry, that didn't cure. That's not good. Why did that not cure? We don't want that on the table. I don't know what to do with that. I've seen people do stuff with isopropyl alcohol. Do I do that? Yeah, well, that's that. We will give it a little more time and see how we go.
Well, I think that we can call that a partial success at best, but definitely not a failure. I think maybe it wasn't all mixed together properly on account of using the mixing tub as my mold also. But in lieu of this, I'll add concentric circles of UV resin to the top of the cured resin to give a rippled surface effect. The base will be from Rumi's balcony meeting, and for said base I use the same size measuring tub as the resin mold to impress my future portal hole into my XPS base. And with my blades deciding to act like spoons, I'll hack out the center for Derpy. With this looking as rough as it does, I will take it outside for a light sanding before drawing on some deck tile joints and impressing in said joints with a stylus for depth. You can see here that I marked out equal increments on the XPS foam because I want my tiles to be mirrored. So I go through and I mark them out with my pen before coming back with a stylus and just impressing in a little bit of an express joint to make the tiles. I'll prime the base with a black acrylic Mod Podge mix and use some crumpled up tin foil to add a sparrow's fart of texture, as these are man-made deck tiles on a penthouse and will require a slip resistance rating to match building code of South Korea. Play safe, kids. With a sponge, I dab on a base layer of my healthiest poo brown, followed by a bone white top coat, and that's all she wrote for the base. I'll do a quick test fit, which I'm super happy with, and after watching K-Pop Demon Hunter for the 3rd time, realized that there were still some black features that I need to add to Derpy. We can, however, now insert him into the floor permanently and add Sussie to some previously drilled head holes. Sussie can finally get some toes, and then I thought we were all done, but I remembered whiskers. Whiskers. So, bear with me, we're gonna make some whiskers. Having never had the call to make whiskers before, I had to think outside the box on this one and to do what any man would do. That's right. damage household cleaning utensils. I started with black as this was the only brush that I had, but I needed them to be white, so I initially sponged the black ones white, then went out back to spray paint them white because the brush wasn't working all that well, and whilst out back I found a white dustpan and brush, which triggered some expletives. But alas, we are at the end of our journey for this week, my friends, and all that is left to do is add a plant pot the right way, better, and onto those derpy headshots.
I'll be your idol.
As always, a big thank you to those of you that came along for the ride today. Like the video if you liked it, share it with your friends and or indeed people you don't even know. I'm happy with either. Smash that like button, subscribe if you want to see more, let me know in the comments section what kind of things you'd like to see me make in future, and until next time, go make a mess.